So prior to 2023, I really never played new games. I was always a Call of Duty kid and I really never played any single player games. But with starting a YouTube channel this year, I really wanted to experiment with playing new games for the first time. So coming into this year, I played around 16 new games that I've never played before, and it was a really fun journey. And even though this may not seem like a lot of games to some people, this was a lot for me considering I only played Call of Duty prior to this. But going into the video with ranking all the games that I've played, the games are basically going to be split into different tiers throughout the entire video, as you guys will see when each tier comes up at each different point. Also, each game is based on just how much fun I had with each game, so there's going to be a lot of bias and even some external factors such as spoilers that were shown to me or any other kind of factor that was displayed while I was playing the game or going into playing a game. So if there's a game that a lot of people love, and for me I may rank it a little lower just because the ending may have been spoiled for me, so you guys may see an example of this later on in the video. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let's get right into it. So coming into the first tier of this video, it is called Never Again. Basically, these are the games that I just don't want to touch ever again. The experience playing them was not fun at all. There were some points where it was a little enjoyable, but other than that, I really just don't want to see this game ever again. So coming in at the 16th spot, we have Modern Warfare 2. Overall, coming into this game, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I remember the first month of playing it, it was actually pretty fun, but if you're a Call of Duty fan, you know this Call of Duty is not like the old ones. There was no red dots on the minimap. There was no dead silence unless you used the specialist little equipment thing. There was a lot of sound whoring in this game, and overall, it just didn't feel like Call of Duty. The maps really weren't fun. The campaign was honestly not bad, but nothing like the old gen Call of Duty games with their campaigns. And of course, skill-based matchmaking was very prevalent in this game, and overall it just got really stale quickly. You had to pay for each little different operator you wanted to use, as well as with the camos. Overall, it just wasn't a very fun experience, and it really just didn't feel like Call of Duty, so this game is at the bottom of my list for this year. Then we have the Kalisto Protocol. I hope I'm saying that one right, but this game, coming into it, I really did not expect much because I've heard so many bad reviews on this game, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint with that opinion. This game is extremely messy, and although there are fun points about this game, a lot of them I don't really remember at this point because the game really isn't that memorable. I hate saying that and kind of hating on the game, but it just wasn't that fun. I was raging a lot at certain parts. Some things just didn't make sense, like how there were certain points in the game where like you would get hurt and you couldn't avoid getting damaged, and I just didn't understand why that was a factor in this game. Also, the story was pretty messy. I'm not going to spoil anything, and honestly I just don't really remember a lot of the story. But yeah, these two games I really don't ever want to touch them again. Then moving right into the next tier, we have Another Chance. These are basically the games where I really did not enjoy them in their entirety, but I'm willing to play them again to see if my opinion would change. And starting off, this is actually the first game I played this year, which is Alien Isolation. Overall, I don't know if it's because this was my first YouTube Let's Play, so I wasn't really focusing on the story too much, which I wish I did, and in turn, I was honestly pretty confused with what was going on. Plus, I feel like you needed a little bit of knowledge from the movies of Alien, so I think that was a little big part of the reason why I was confused a lot. Also, the Alien AI in this game is insane, how they kind of know where you are at all times, and it's pretty hard to avoid them, man. You know, this game was extremely scary at first, and then it turned into a rage-inducing game for me, and it was just not very fun. But next, I'm going to get hate for this game, but Uncharted Drake's Fortune. You know, coming into this game, the Uncharted series is a very popular one, and I'm not gonna lie, the games are probably extremely fun, but I just felt like this game did not age very well. The reason why it's in Another Chance in this tier is just because I feel like my opinion may change on this game if I played it another time. You know, throughout the game, I just felt really confused on where I was supposed to go, and I feel like a lot of the older games like this one, they don't really lead you to certain parts of the map of where you're supposed to go, and you know, sometimes you have to look up little guides on, all right, how do I get out of this area? How do I beat this boss or something? But I will say the game became a lot more fun and kind of strayed away from the almost kind of generic fortune hunting game to being a game with like magic and those like demon things. That thing I really did not expect in this game, and honestly that's when the game picked up and was where I really enjoyed it. But other than that, the game just really wasn't that fun to me, and I'm sorry for saying that because I'm sure a lot of you love this game and have a lot of memories for it, but you know, it just didn't really hit like all the other games did for me this year. Next, we have the quality game tier. This is basically the games that are overall pretty good games. Either they're just decent or good and they just have certain bad parts about them, or they're just just really new and I don't want to rank them too high yet. But starting off with this list or with this tier, we have God of War 1. You know, this game is pretty old, but for how old it is, the combat is extremely fun. And I feel like even for an old game, the story is really enjoyable too. You know, seeing Kratos for the first time battling against Ares and seeing a little glimpse at all the other Greek gods, I thought that was really cool, a really great idea to play with. But there were some rage-inducing missions throughout this game, mainly in the lava area where you had to climb up that big tower with all the spikes. That was annoying. And even the little ramp part that I'll put a little clip in for this video, but that part was extremely annoying. Dude! Oh no, you motherfucker! But this game, obviously it's old, so it's not the best looking game, even though graphics don't really matter, but I think just being a little older, it kind of drops a little bit on this list. But next we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. You know, this game, so far, it only came out around a month ago with this video dropping, but this game is extremely fun in my opinion. I think Sledgehammer taking over this Call of Duty is a great idea. I think Infinity Ward is just a terrible Call of Duty developer at this point. And this game really brought back a lot of the old Call of Duty roots, I feel like. And one of the main reasons why I enjoy this game so much is just because of the amount of challenges they have for it. Like, you can get so many different cool looking camos in this game, as well as weekly challenges to get new guns, new animated camos. Overall, there's just a lot you can do in this game, and I'm very happy that we actually have things to strive for, like challenges to do, as well as the maps are pretty cool. Being the retro MW2 maps is pretty cool. Overall, I think the game just plays really well, as well as having the red dots on the minimap and dead silence and stuff. You know, I really can't complain with this game, and I honestly, at this point, I don't have too many negative things to say about it, but since it is pretty new, I'm going to leave it at this tier. But next, moving on to my next tier, we have the very fun tier. So this is basically all the games where I just had a lot of fun playing them. They may not be the most perfect games in the world. The actual experience of playing them was just really enjoyable. And coming in at the first game in this tier, we have God of War 2. This game was a great step up from God of War 1. It kept the amazing core gameplay of God of War 1, but added a lot of story to the game. And overall, it was just a fun experience to play. Having that improved storyline in this game with Zeus and all the other gods, I thought it was a really good idea. How Kratos got his God of War reputation stripped and how he had to just get on to the path of vengeance, and leading up to that final battle with Zeus was really cool. And really, overall, I just don't really have anything bad to say about this game. I thought it was really fun. Of course, there are some rage-inducing moments, but I think everything else kind of makes up for that. Next, we have SpiderMan Remastered. Now, the Spider-Man games are probably the highlight of my year. I thought these games were extremely fun, other than the God of War games. Spider-Man is a great game, and it really took the combat of the Arkham games and honestly made them, if not better, definitely on the same tier as the Batman games for sure. The gameplay was extremely fun and fluid. The storyline was extremely good with Dr. Octavius and all the other villains. The game was just overall enjoyable, and that's why it ends up in this very fun tier. Next, we have Resident Evil 4. I'm a big fan of these Resident Evil remakes. With not having any experience with the original games, these remakes are extremely fun to play and just experience the universe for the first time. And Resident Evil 4 is a huge jump from 2 and 3 in my opinion. It goes from this strictly horror vibe to almost a horror mixed with an action-based genre, and I thought it was really cool to see. And overall, I could just see this game having a lot of replay value, and I think that's a really good factor for a game. And for me, I just really want to play this game again one day and just experience the entire story with Leon once again. Next, we have Spider-Man Miles Morales. I really enjoy this game. I know a lot of people say this is probably the third best game in the trilogy, but for me, I'm just a big Miles Morales fan. Ever since the Spider-Verse movies came out, I've just been a huge fan of him. He's a nice, fresh change of pace compared to Peter Parker for me, since I only grew up with Peter. And just seeing the story of Miles was really cool to witness for the first time and just experience this character in such a great way for a video game. And I thought it was really fun. And then next, we actually have Mortal Kombat 1. And this is actually my first Mortal Kombat game I have ever played. And for what it was and how I experienced it, I thought it was extremely fun. First, I played the story mode, which I thought was incredible. I don't know how this one compared to the other ones, but for me, I thought it was extremely fun. But yeah, after finishing the story mode, I kind of dabbled in the invasions mode a little bit, which honestly was extremely fun, but I did feel it got a little repetitive after a while, but it was still an extremely fun gameplay mechanic for the game and to earn different rewards and stuff. And then of course they have the online matches, which at first and honestly I am still garbage at. But it's a very rewarding thing to get better at the game with a certain character, a certain main. I'm sounding like a complete Mortal Kombat noob, I'm aware. But yeah, the game was just really fun to play, and it was cool to experience a fighting game for the first time, and it was a complete change of pace for me. That's why it's so high on this list. And then next, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but we have Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, this game in general is one of the best games ever made, but for me, it's a little lower on this list for just how much fun I had, because I kind of had an idea of how the game ended. Unfortunately, I was kind of spoiled on Instagram a while ago, seeing how Arthur kind of passed away on the mountain looking to the sun. I saw that a long time ago, and I always knew Arthur was, not going to make it by the end of the story, which kind of sucked, and that whole concept was looming over me the entire time I played it, as well as trying to fit the game into a YouTube Let's Play and trying not to drag out the series too long. I almost felt rushed at times, and I hate even putting it this low, but for me, comparing it to the other games that are ahead of it, the other 4, this game, it's just, with certain factors that happened in it, this is just how it ended up on my list. But overall, this game is one of the best games ever made, just with how creative and fun the open world aspect of the game is, and just how good the characters are. It's a great game, man, but it's going to end up in my very fun tier. And moving on to the last tier of the video, where the last 4 games are at, which is the perfection tier. This is basically the tier where I just had so much fun playing these games, and they are also just complete perfection. It's just the 2 factors intertwined with each other, and that's how they all ended up in this list, or on this tier. And coming in at the 4th spot, we have God of War 2018. This game completely switched up from the OG trilogy, and at the time, I really thought it was a great time to switch up from that trilogy just before things would get stale, and I thought it was a great idea to change the gameplay completely for this game, and even the story as well, dealing with the Nordic gods. I thought it was a great idea, and the entire adventure into this new universe was so fun, being old Kratos with his son Atreus, and yeah, I really don't have anything bad to say about this game, but it is just so good, and the combat as well, perfect. And next, at the number 3 spot, we have God of War Ragnarok. For God of War Ragnarok, I feel like they just built on what made 2018 so good and just kept running with that perfect formula. I really didn't think they needed to change much. I'm not even too mad that the map was the same, just covered in snow. If something is not bad, I don't see the reason as to why everything needs to switch up, especially for these games. You have the great combat mechanics, the armor customization, and of course you have the great characters. Atreus growing up was really cool to see. Fighting Odin, Thor, Heimdall, and all the other Nordic gods was so fun. This game was just really fun, man. And even if it did have the Marvel-esque battle scene at the end, I still thought it fit pretty well with this game, even though I do think Odin was a little too weak for my liking, but the game was just really fun for me, man, and it was a great experience. And next, we actually have SpiderMan 2 coming in at the number 2 spot. I feel like SpiderMan 2 is just overall perfection, man. The boss fights, I think, were the best in this game out of the entire trilogy. Of course, you had the badass character Kraven, and of course Venom, Harry coming back, seeing him for the first time in this game. A lot of the other villains getting killed by Kraven, which is crazy. Even if you do not agree with this happening in the game, it was still really interesting to see a villain doing this to other villains. Like, man, this is like unheard of for me, because I'd never even heard of Kraven prior to this game, and it was a really cool introduction to this character. And the game's combat with the Venom abilities, as well as Miles' stuff, the game was just so fun to play, man. And I thought the story was really good, ending off with Miles being the main Spider-Man currently. I don't know if that's going to carry forward into the next game or next games, but we shall see. And I just thought this game was really fun, man, and I definitely recommend you guys play this one if you guys haven't already. And coming in at the number 1 spot, the most fun I've had with a game this year was God of War 3. With God of War 3, there was zero downtime in this game, and it felt like boss fights were happening every 10 minutes, man. This game was just a roller coaster of fun. With playing the other 2 games prior to this one, you just had the built-up anger that Kratos had and was displaying in the game, and it just carried out through my hands into the controller, into Kratos' actions, and I just feel like the developers handled this anger and drive to get back at all the gods perfectly, and it just really made the game that much better and that much more meaningful to Kratos and to the actual player of the game. Even if our actions aren't really the best thing to be doing against the Greek gods, it just felt like, at this point, I don't care, all of you are going down, I don't care how bloody, how bad it gets, but no one's gonna be left standing except for me. And I thought that was so badass and cool throughout this entire game. And honestly, I don't think there will be a game that tops the action of God of War 3. This is one of my favorite games of all time now, and I really didn't think a game could go above Batman Arkham City for me, but God of War 3 is probably number one for me, if not top 3. It's somewhere up there, man. That game was incredible, and I wish I could play it for the first time again. But yeah, that was basically the entire video of me ranking each game I played this year. If you guys don't disagree too much with my opinion and you kind of understand why I was putting things in certain spots just because of how much fun and enjoyment I had with each game. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. Remember to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and I hope to see you guys on the next video. Peace out.